Good morning, everybody, and Merry Christmas. I think this is the 9th day before Christmas, and if so, I just wanted to share with you for the next few days until Christmas, just some special Christmas stories. I love Christmas, of course, and I know you do. I love Christmas stories. I can't wait until every year that I can just share some of these, what I think are the best stories in all the world. One of my favorite Christmas books is The Christmas Stories from the Heart by Alice Gray. And it's a wonderful little book that is comprised of many stories from many different people. I want to share one with you this morning that I have shared many times. Again, one of my favorite, but it's called The Manger Was Empty by Cassandra Lindell. It said the pastor arrived early on Christmas morning to give the church a thorough inspection, noting with approval that the aisles were clean and the seats had been dusted after their midnight Christmas Eve service. Any lost purses or Bibles or gloves had been collected and sent to the office of the lost and found. Every forgotten flyer and bulletin insert had been rounded up and been discarded. So the church was clean, so the pastor was pleased. He looked outside and it was just beginning to grow light, and so he was so excited as he noticed occasionally stray candlelight picked up the rich color in the stained glass windows. He paused beside an almost lifelike nativity scene to say a Christmas prayer of thanksgiving to the one whose birth is celebrated. And in his pausing, praying, and reflecting, he noticed the figures there, each lovingly crafted with wonderful realism. They sat on a small stage. The night sky, the star that led the shepherds, the wise men to the Messiah of that day, could be seen brightly shining through the open doorway of the stable. The shepherds were just entering, their eyes wide with obvious awe, and there were many different kinds of livestock there. And then in the center of all of it was the Holy Family. And so as he looked at this manger scene, the pastor could almost feel a reverence for that night long ago. But as he reflected, slowly a puzzled look came across his face. His choked gasp rustled through that empty church. Hurriedly and with growing aggravation, the pastor began to search because the manger was empty. That little figure representing infant Jesus was gone. And so confused and bewildered and puzzled and aggravated, he began to search the church frantically. He looked under every pew. He looked down the aisles. He looked in every corner. He called the custodian thinking that he might have seen where baby Jesus had been misplaced. He called the assistant pastor. He called the elders, but nobody had an explanation. In the end, each just shaking his head sorrowfully, they accepted the truth that they had obviously just been trying to avoid, that somebody had stolen baby Jesus. Now, can you get a picture of that? The pastor walking through the church, enjoying the season, enjoying the scenery, comes to the manger scene, and the manger was empty. The pastor reported the theft to the congregation that had assembled that morning. His voice trembled as he told them what he had found earlier that morning. For a person to steal the very symbol of the reason of celebrating, the very reason for the hope of the season, he just could not understand. His gaze swept the faces of that early morning crowd, disappointed to think that maybe somebody in that congregation was the one that had done such a horrible and horrific thing. He began to speak. He said the figure of the Christ child must be returned before Christmas Day. This was, of course, their Christmas Eve service. And he went on to say that nobody will ask any questions, but it just needs to be brought back immediately. The manger remained empty throughout the day, throughout Christmas Eve. Toward the end of the afternoon, he was discouraged and heavy-hearted, and he just thought maybe he would take a walk through the wintry snow, walk through the streets of the neighborhood. Ahead of him, he saw one of his youngest members of his flock, a little 6-year-old boy named Tommy. Bundled shabbily against the cold, Tommy trudged up the sidewalk, proudly dragging behind him a Toy Express wagon. It was bright red and Christmas new. I pause right here just to reflect on my Christmas that I received one of these red wagons that I pulled everywhere. I would go up a hill and get in it and ride down the hill, steering it with that black handle. Anybody ever get a red wagon for Christmas? Tommy was so excited. The pastor, knowing what sacrifice and scrimping the purchase of this little wagon was by this family, it just made his heart just sigh with joy as he just knew the sacrifice that the family had made in just getting Tommy that little red wagon. And he could feel his faith in humankind and human nature returning into his spirit. He sped up as he walked toward Tommy because he wanted to wish Tommy a Merry Christmas and just admire that brand new wagon. But as he drew nearer and as he drew closer, he noticed that the wagon wasn't empty. But in the wagon was little baby Jesus, all wrapped up freshly and blanketed, but not quite hidden. And so the pastor crouched down beside Tommy, one knee feeling the damp moisture of the snow coming through his pant leg. His face was grim. His face was disappointed. Tommy was a little boy, of course, but Tommy had to learn that you didn't steal. He just had to learn some things in his life. So as he knelt down, he began to chastise this little boy. He put his face close to Tommy's face, and he could see as he was getting on to him about not stealing and about doing the right thing, he could see those little tears just flowing down Tommy's face. The little boy said, "Pastor, I didn't steal Jesus. It wasn't like that at all." And then he paused to swallow hard and wipe those tears from his cheeks. And he went on to say, "It's just that I've been asking Jesus for a little red wagon for the longest of time. And I promised him that whenever I got it, that I would give him his very first ride." special story, isn't it? During this season, begin to think about that story and realize that during this season, just here was a little boy that was giving something special back to Jesus, something that he could give him. And even though it is a fictional story, I'm sure, but even though it seems so simple, yet even the simple things, or what we might consider simple, means a lot to Jesus. And so during this Christmas season, if you haven't already started, and I know you have, start doing something special. Talk to Jesus just a little bit more. Love him a little bit more. Do for others, because in your doing for others, you're doing for Jesus. And I want you to have the merriest of Christmases. And I want joy and hope to be reflected. Do something special for Jesus today. God bless you. I love you. Merry Christmas.